Okay guys, so you take your reading and writing your English EOC next week, your English 1 EOC. And I know we've been working on essays lately and a lot of other grammar and revising and editing. And today we're going to go over some reading strategies and work with the reading passage together, okay? And see, what kind of things should we be doing while we're reading in order to better comprehend that passage. Okay, so I have a passage for you called Using Maps versus GPS. And if we take a look, the first thing that we want to do when we open our test booklet or when we get any type of article or text that we're going to read, the first thing that we want to do is preview it. So we look, and what kind of things can we look at to sort of make a prediction about what the text is going to be about?
Argument between maps and GPS?
But yeah, definitely. So we look at the title, and you can see it's like an argument. So we could put that up here. Just argument between maps and GPS. So in an argument, what kind of paper is that? Is that a fiction article? Is that a nonfiction? Is it persuasive? Is it?
Persuasive.
It's definitely going to be persuasive. So if it's saying using maps versus GPS, how did you know it was going to be an argument or persuasive? Which keyword did you use to find that? Versus, the versus, because two things are going to be put up against each other so that one's going to either be better than the other or they're going to talk about one better than the other. So that's our first step in our reading strategies, is really looking at the article and making some predictions. That way our mind starts thinking about, what do we know about this topic and what can we predict? What do we know about maps versus GPS so far? How many of you have a GPS that you've used? Do you have it on your phones or do you have a separate one?
I use it on my phone.
Oh, you have a separate one too? Cool. Okay, do you use it like in the car? Okay. And everybody that has, the smartphones has a GPS. And how many of you have ever used the old school maps? No? But you've used them in social studies and stuff, right? In history, do they make you use maps sometimes and find stuff? It's a good skill to have, right? Okay, so that's what our article, we can make a guess, is going to be about. So we're going to read the first paragraph. So first paragraph, Kyle, would you read it for me?
Call me a falco, but when I take a road trip, I like to get around by using printed maps. I've been licensed to drive for 20 years, and every car I've owned has contained and ran McNally Road Atlas with the maps of the northeastern states, dog-eared and loosened from their staples. Navigating by map carries over to foreign roads too. In May, my wife and I went to France, where we drove around Provence and dipped a wheel into Italy.
Okay, so what is this, when we read, the important thing to do is not just to read all the way through, right? So we want to stop and make connections like, oh, how does this connect to my life, or what have I read that's like this? We want to reread any confusing parts, just like you slowed down when you read the name. Ask questions like, oh, what does this have to do with the topic? Or notice things and paraphrase and summarize. So what could we paraphrase here? What do we see in this first paragraph that the author's trying to say to us? What's the main thing?
Things are changed or different. Because back then when we used to get cars, there was always a map in it.
Okay, and what does he like better?
The maps.
The map. Okay, so can we put that over here on the side just so we paraphrase? It's like he likes maps better. How can we tell, what's one clue that he gave us in this first passage that we can tell that he's used his road map, his Brand McNally Road Atlas a lot? How can we tell he uses it a lot? That map's been used a lot. He's been driving for 20 years and he has had one in every car, so yeah, that's true. But what's the other thing, that one road map, that Rand McNally Road Atlas, there's a clue there that he gives to us that, man, you can tell it's been used a lot.
Loosened their staples.
Yeah, so the edging, the staples are loosened, and it's dog-eared. What does dog-eared mean? It means when you fold something over to mark its place in a book, it means you dog-ear something. So he has all these folds in there where he's marked places, and it's loosened, so it's torn up. So I'm just gonna put sort of torn or worn over to the side. And that just shows us, wow, he uses that all the time, so he really likes these maps a lot better. Okay, so paragraph 2, Malcolm, would you read it for me?
Before we left, I made the blanket top,
Topographical.
topographical coverage. I imaged the alley generals had when they stormed the continent. Collecting the maps was an interminable process. Bookstores have scaled back their selections in recent years or stopped selling maps altogether. Apparently, a good number of people think printed maps are pointless nowadays.
Okay, so we had some confusing sentences in those first 2 or 3. I didn't get it this first time around. So one of the things we do is we reread the confusing parts. So when I reread it, before we left, I amassed the blanket topographical coverage I imagine the Allied generals had when they stormed the continent. I know that amassed, that word right there, means collected a lot of, had a lot of. So he's amassing a lot of maps is what I think, like collecting. So that's my clue, thinking about, what's going on, paraphrasing. Collecting the maps was an interminable process. What could interminable mean? Hard, difficult, never ending? Like, if you terminate somebody, if somebody gets terminated at work, what does that mean? You're fired, right? It's the end, it's terminated. So interminable, it's like it's never ending. It doesn't end, right? So I collected the maps in an interminable process. Bookstores had scaled back their selection in recent years. Why have bookstores scaled back their selection of maps? Because people don't use them, right? So apparently a good number of people think printed maps are pointless nowadays. Okay, so what can we say as sort of a summary of this paragraph then? What was he doing?
Trying to gather up all the maps.
And was it an easy or hard process? Okay, so gathering maps, and then I'm going to put a little equal sign, hard process. Okay, so as we're close reading, that's what we're doing, is just stopping, looking at those words that we're having difficulty with, trying to figure them out. We can use word clues like the root words, like I pointed out, the context clues of what's around them, and then summarizing, paraphrasing, and seeking clarification from the text. So paragraph 3, Roberto, would you read paragraph 3 for me?
For instance, my wife, her idea of
Enjoyable.
right doesn't involve messing with according codes. In reading, I charted while I yell out from behind the wheel. We just passed a sign. Do you see boutiques anywhere there? She prefers GPS. Likes the ease of it, takes comfort in knowing we're on the best route, according to the navigation software formula.
Okay, so Malcolm, who is he talking about now? And what does she like? Okay, why? Why does she like GPS better than maps? It's easier. She likes the ease of it. I'm going to underline that. She likes the ease of it. And it says she takes comfort in knowing we're on the best route. So knowing we're on the best route, that's another reason she likes it. He makes sort of a sarcastic remark here at the end. He says, according to the navigation software, anyway. Does he believe that navigation software tells them the best route?
Yeah.
No, I think it's sort of sarcastic. So underneath this, I'm just gonna put in parentheses here, sort of sarcasm. He doesn't really agree or trust the GPS, it seems like. He's more old-fashioned, right? So according to the navigation software, anyway. It's almost like he's giving us an eye roll there. His wife, though, likes GPS, so we're gonna put that as wife likes GPS as our paraphrasing summary there to the side. But we see her two reasons in the paragraph, the ease of it, knowing we're on the best route, and then we see him make that sort of sarcastic remark of, according to the navigation software, anyway. Okay, so paragraph 4, Kyle,
There's immediately
admittedly,
admittedly something satisfying about watching the blue dot version of yourself inch closer to its destination. And sure, for the rush hour commuter, it's very 21st century for your phone to alert you to an accident snarling,
to a what?
accident
Very good.
snarling traffic up ahead. But I would argue that a road trip, especially one taken with another person, is a lesser experience with GPS or navigation apps. I'm not even going to get into how in choosing the single most efficient route to your desired destination, GPS is excludes other routes and destinations you might not realize your desire to see, and removes serendipity, which as any undergrad with a Penguin Classics edition of On the Road knows is the very oxygen that makes a road trip come alive.
Okay, so we have that word serendipity. It removes serendipity. What is serendipity?
Sauce.
No, it's a sauce. Where do you, like a sauce at Chicken Express that you can use? Okay, but it has a meaning other than that. Does anybody know the meaning of it? Okay, what can we do if we can't use any context clues and we can't find the meaning?
Use a dictionary.
Okay, let me grab one real quick and then. Okay. Who wants to volunteer? Who's the fastest?
Yeah, I will.
Okay. So serendipity. And here he's saying that there are some good things about GPS at the beginning. What can it help commuters to do? For the rush hour commuter, it helps them, what? It alerts them to something.
It is.
For an accident.
It'll tell them there's an accident so they can take a different road, right? So it does say there are some good things. Did you find serendipity?
Yes, ma'am.
What does it say?
A seeming gift for finding good things accidentally.
Finding good things accidentally. So is there a synonym down there? Like,
It'll be down here. No.
what does it mean when you find something good accidentally? Like you find a 4-leaf clover or you find a $20 bill in your pocket. What is that called?
Look.
Luck. So serendipity is luck. So let's put luck under here. Okay, so when we reread that section, GPS excludes other routes and destinations you might not realize you desire to see. Like you're going straight to your place following GPS, but you might not realize, hey, this road sign says there's a field of bluebonnets over here, or there's a cave this way. Other things you might not even know you desire to see. It says it removes serendipity, like coming upon something and stumbling upon it, like luckily. Like, oh wow, look what we found on the road today, you know? So that luck, that serendipity, he says, makes the road trip come alive. So looking at this paragraph altogether, what is his main statement of why he likes the road map? What does it do?
Adventure.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, let's put that, okay. Maps make it adventurous. You see things you might not see following a GPS. You have stumble upon things. It makes the road trip come alive. It's adventurous. Very good summary. Okay, so next, Malcolm, you're paragraph 5 for me.
Consider this though using printed maps requires travelers to work together, you become a team driver and navigator. Your ability to get along and solve problems is tested in valuable, revealing ways. GPS removes that entire interpersonal dynamic. It encourages a passive form of journeying, setback and trip because eventually Australian sounding computer lady will tell you to turn left in a quarter mile.
Okay. So what does it encourage to use the maps? What is it encouraging? What does it help with? If we were to paraphrase or summarize what he said, summarize what he said here in just one sentence. What did he say in this paragraph in one sentence?
Spend time together.
You're spending time together and working together, right? Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so let's just put teamwork over here. Because it looks like teamwork is required when you use the maps. Is that a good thing on a road trip? If you really want to spend time with someone, I guess teamwork and, really somebody navigating and someone following directions and driving. Okay, paragraph 6. Roberto, I think that's you.
Writing by map on the other hand, on a page, you keep doing
Actively.
actively in your surroundings. It makes you observe road signs, be in the moment, and that closer engagement with you.
I found.
I found imprints the landscape more vividly and permanently into your mind. When I return home, I can unfold my maps and take myself back to a town or a stretch of highway.
Okay, so let's make a connection here. Y'all have been on road trips before, right? You've been in the car. Okay, so it says that driving by map engages you actively with your surroundings and prints the landscape more vividly. What's the greatest thing you've ever seen on a road trip?
Ocean.
Have you driven past the ocean before? That's pretty.
Big cities.
Driving through big cities, sometimes you get to see like the tall buildings and stuff. What's the biggest city you've been through?
When I went to Florida for football.
Houston, even. If you drive downtown Houston, it's big. And you went to Florida?
Disney World.
Did,
I thought we were finna go for a minute.
y'all passed right by it?
Yeah.
Oh, no,
Football,
But you got to see it. Like right now, all the wildflowers out. Have y'all seen all the flowers out on the side of the road right now? Oh my goodness, they're really beautiful. So imprints the landscape more vividly. How could GPS take away from doing that?
Because you don't look no way, like, you just paying attention to what GPS says and just looking for it.
Just sort of zoned out and watching GPS. Yes, okay, so that's good. So over here, we could put just GPS takes away from you noticing the landscape. Okay, so that's my sort of paraphrase of it. Like the GPS takes away from you noticing the landscape, while the maps sort of helps you to engage actively, was the author's words, engage actively. Okay. Okay, Kyle, paragraph 7 for us.
Often I'll buy a map months before the trip and by studying it try to pull the opposite trick. to transport myself into the place I intend to visit. It builds anticipation.
Okay, let's try that one again. Anticipation. What's anticipation, guys? You anticipate something.
Like you rushing, or not rushing, but you hesitate to do it.
He's buying a map and says he's studying the place. It builds anticipation. What is our context clues telling us anticipate? Close? Think about it. You know you're about to go on a trip. You're looking at the brochures, you're looking at the map. It's building anticipation. Would you say you're excited?
Oh, yeah, excited.
Okay, so it's building this excitement, right? We could always use the dictionary for that too. But I think that's what this paragraph is about. These maps, when you buy them ahead of time, you're looking and you're studying, and it's building that anticipation. Okay, now we have somebody's name here. Go ahead, Kyle. Eric Ribick.
Eric Ribick, a map publisher in upstate New York who writes a blog called Mapville, described this to me particularly poetically as the seeking and dreaming part of travel that you can do with a map.
The seeking, dreaming part of travel. So he quoted someone. Let's just write quote underneath that to remember that we have a quote there, because he's backing up his thoughts with somebody else's quotes too. And this whole paragraph, what is it about? Maps do what?
Build excitement.
Build excitement. Perfect. So if you buy a map ahead of time and you're studying it, it helps you get excited about your trip. Okay, paragraph 8. Malcolm, you get a short one.
I used to seek and dream at the Handstorm Mapping Travel Center on West 43rd Street. I love that store. It closed 4 years ago, leaving New York, like many cities, without a specialty map shop.
So let's make an inference here. Why would these map shops be closing?
Because GPS don't know.
Yeah, simple as that, right? Not many people use them anymore. So let's just put map shops close. Okay, Roberto? Mr. Ribick?
Mr. Ribick believes we live in a golden age for maps. More people are using more maps in more ways than they have in our lifetime. He said, but he
Estimated?
that brings map sales are living of what they once were. And
Filling
filling
stations?
stations no longer sell maps as a rule. People still like to print maps as art. They use them like using them as much the word tricky.
Okay, so we're living in a golden age for maps. Does that surprise you? Okay, so how are people using maps more than ever in our lifetime? They're just not what? They're just not using the printed ones. But the GPS gives us maps, and online we have like Google Earth, and people are looking at maps, but they're not just using the old-fashioned printed ones. Let's put golden age for maps. But they just don't use them to travel with anymore, the old folded kind, the accordion style folded kind. Okay, so paragraph 10, is that back to you, Kyle?
My wife wishes I fell into these camp. I know this because as we left your car agency in Avignon, she turned to me and said, "My heart sank when you declined GPS. Later in the car, as we regarded a local map provided by the agent, a much photocopy and essentially unreadable document, she said, "Now my 7-day nightmare begins."
Okay, so what's the wife complaining about here? They went on a trip.
GPS, he didn't accept the GPS.
Okay, so let's just put wife unhappy, right? He didn't accept the GPS, and we already know that this is something that they disagree about. Okay, this was our honeymoon, incidentally. Why is that on a paragraph all by itself? What does that make that? A little more what? It's- Why would the author, sometimes we need to stop and notice the author's style and how they use things, what techniques they use. Why would they put that in a paragraph all by itself? This was our honeymoon, incidentally. What does it add to the story?
It's a word, but like I'm trying to think of how to say it.
Usually when something's in a paragraph or line all by itself, it means it's important, or they're trying to emphasize something. Do you think it's sort of funny, humorous? I think maybe he's trying to add humor here, right? It's like, here's this thing, she's like, oh, my 7-day nightmare begins, and then he puts this like one-liner, it was our honeymoon, incidentally, right? So I think I'm just gonna put here humor, right? Sort of emphasizing the humor of the situation. Okay. So paragraph 12. Where are we? Oh.
Maybe she was having flashbacks to our trip to Rome 2 summers ago. We planned to drive up to Tuscany for a few days. I caved and agreed to GPS, but as happened, there was a mix-up and our rental car came unique. Unequipped. She went pale and began breathing irregularly. Outwardly, I confronted. Inwardly, I rejoiced. I packed a map. I get to test my mettle in a foreign country on Ireland roads, no less, or the centralized and is basically decorative.
Okay, so no map in their car a couple years ago in Rome, and they have to drive to Tuscany. That's a foreign country. Would you be comfortable driving in a foreign country not knowing where you are? Like, it'd be tough, right? Okay, not maybe being able to read the road signs and stuff like that. Also, over there they go by kilometers instead of miles. Did y'all know that? So, how did he feel about this? Obviously, the wife.
He was happy.
He was happy. Why? What did he say?
He got a chance to use this map on Italy roads.
Yeah, Italian roads. I get to test my mettle in a foreign country. What is metal? That's not the metal we're used to, metal, like a metal, like a hard metallic substance. That's not that.
Metal is like your whip. Not this metal, you're tripping.
Yeah, metal. This is a word I'm unfamiliar with, so I'm just going to put a little circle around it because I might come back to that. I get to test my metal. I do know that it means I'm going to get to test, like, what? My map skills? Something like that, right? Some kind of skills or something. Okay, on these foreign roads. So here, let's see, it's a story about what? Story of a trip they took, right? Of road trip in Italy. Okay, that's what we'll put. Good job. Okay, paragraph 13. You have a long one, Roberta.
Traveling in a strange place by map alone feels confidence that I can get around in the world. GPS may illuminate a big source also remove some of the tree
Thrill.
and personal challenge. On the road without GPS, we found ourselves in a maddening
Maze.
maze of
Arbitrary.
arbitrary seeming and suddenly reversing one-way streets. Much smoother was our recent European road trip. I handled the driving. My wife,
Semi.
embraced. The map reader rolled and we did up study communication, pointing out road signs, not
Noting.
noting landmarks, clues, growing
Hypnotized.
by the traffic circle.
Circles. Okay. So there was a lot there. I sort of got a little confused. I'm going to reread just a little bit, okay? So y'all listen because you're going to tell me the note. I want you to underline as I read what he likes about GPS, okay? Traveling in a strange place by map alone. I'm sorry, what he likes about maps. Traveling in a strange place by map alone builds confidence that I can get around in the world. That might be a positive. GPS may eliminate a big source of travel stress, getting lost, but it also removes some of the thrill and personal challenge. That seems like a good thing. In Rome, without GPS, we found ourselves in a maddening maze of arbitrary seeming and suddenly reversing one-way streets. Much smoother was our recent European road trip. I handled the driving, my wife semi-embraced the map reader role, and we kept up steady communication, pointing out road signs, noting landmark cues, growing gently hypnotized by the traffic circles. So what were a couple things he mentioned there about good about maps?
Building confidence.
Building confidence that he can get around in a foreign place. What else?
Building personal challenge.
Perfect. Thrill and personal challenge, right? And then he talks about his trip to Rome. So what could we put there as sort of like our notes so that we remember what the summary of this was?
The goods of maps.
Benefits of maps. Let's put that. Benefits of maps. And our last paragraph.
There we were, the two of us finding our way on foreign roads, satellite unassisted. At one point, I asked my wife if she still wanted GPS, and though she replied yes, I'm sure I heard a pause before she answered.